The Royal Guards in Star Wars are quite secretive, and their stories remain largely unknown. So, what if we had a series dedicated to exploring every aspect of an Imperial Royal Guard? You probably don't know much about the Royal Guards in Star Wars if you've only watched the movies and the animated shows. And there's a reason for that, because Star Wars in the canon timeline haven't done a great job at actually talking about these royal guards and showcasing what they can do and what they really mean for the Empire and more specifically for Palpatine. The only resemblance we kinda got where we saw a little bit of their action would be Praetorian Guards, who we saw alongside Snoke in The Last Jedi. And honestly, I don't really think we know much more about them than what we do about the Royal Guards in Star Wars canon. However, where things differ by quite a lot is if we follow the story of the Royal Guards through Star Wars Legends. You see, in Star Wars Legends, the documentation that we have regarding the Royal Guards are actually quite significant, especially from the material that we got from the comics. So in today's video, I kind of want to explore a little bit of what it meant to be a Royal Guard, how one would actually get that position, and also discuss what a series could look like for Star Wars that is all about the Imperial Royal Guards, or Palpatine's Royal Guards. So let's just put things on the table first so we have it clear. I don't think this should be a live-action movie, nor a live-action series. I think it would be better if we had an animated series more in the line of like the Tales of the Empire or Tales of the Jedi, but obviously more closely to Tales of the Empire in this case. And then just keep it really short. Keep it maybe like 6 episodes with highly crafted stories of what it means from being a normal soldier to a royal guard who's beyond loyal to Palpatine. Let's kind of focus on what kind of content could we feed this series to actually make something out of it. Well, the smartest move would be to simply extract the material and the stories and lore that we already have from Star Wars Legends. Because pulling from the elements of Legends in this particular case doesn't really conflict with any other part of Star Wars, at least so long as they focus just on the Royal Guards. Okay, I'll take that back a little bit because I wanted to say that the Royal Guards have different sections and some of them are Force sensitive in the Legends timeline, and I don't really think that would fit into the canon Star Wars right now. But if we just take those small elements out, then practically the majority of the stories that leads a character from, again, just being a soldier to a loyal Royal Guard would be quite easy to forward in a canon story. Now, with that said, lean back and enjoy because I'm going to explain to you in a quick summary what the Royal Guard candidates had to do in order to acquire the very exclusive position as the most loyal servant of Palpatine, besides maybe Palpatine's right hand and also Darth Vader, of course. So this is what usually happened. At the beginning, Palpatine would hand select out notable stormtroopers that kind of showcased some significant skill or a deep sense of loyalty to the Empire. And from there on, they would be set on a path that's arguably one of, if not the hardest Imperial training program ever made. Palpatine was so serious about filtering these candidates down to the right people that he established an entire academy simply for selecting his royal guards, and a lot of attendees would participate in the events that the academy hosted to find the right people. And the way they did this was that they tested them through a lot of intense and even deadly combat that usually revolved them fighting each other, as in the candidates would fight each other. And in these fights, they weren't just using regular sticks, no, they were using swords and other forms of deadly weapons that would essentially kill one or the other. And with regular Palpatine tradition, he would choose the one who's the strongest. And then, sometimes the one who was the strongest out of all of the candidates will end up fighting a greater enemy like Darth Vader to really test them and see their skills in combat. For those who survived that process and went to the next stage, had to practically learn every aspect of the entire Empire. What I mean by this is that they had to learn to pilot a long range of various starships and fighters, also know how to combat against basic force abilities, They also had to know all the Imperial Army and Navy call codes, learn medical care in almost every aspect so that they could treat Palpatine in case it was needed for some reason, and so on and so forth. Basically, they were the elite of the elite, and they basically had to train for everything so that Palpatine could use them for whatever he needed. But there's one more thing they had to go through, and I'm gonna make that quick for you guys because I don't really want to make this into a lore video, but Palpatine sometimes gave them one last little challenge. He would test their ultimate loyalty and sometimes ask one of them to eliminate one of their friends that had also succeeded the necessary trials. Obviously, these royal guards who had gone through so much training and so much challenges together in order to get this position definitely created a closer bond. And now, they're tasked to kill one another to figure out who is the most loyal. And that is how Palpatine decided who was to become his royal guards. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that if we saw all of this in a 6-episode mini-series with the Star Wars Clone Wars animation style, then I really think that we would have something that's quite memorable. Now, obviously, because it's Disney Star Wars and everything, they'll definitely try to make their own little version and add their twists to the stories and such here and there, but overall, I do think that just the trials that all of these royal guards had to go through in order to become a royal guard has so much depth to it that there's potential to make an interesting little mini-series. And again, by doing this, it will expand Star Wars canon lore, and it will also give a more sense of importance to these royal guards, so they don't look like common quote-unquote NPCs that just wanders around Palpatine and not doing anything else except looking cool. And it would definitely stand out as something different than what we normally get in a Star Wars story, which can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, but in this case, I think it would be a good thing. But I would be interested to know what you guys think about all of this in the comments, and let's have a little bit of discussion on whether or not a Royal Guard miniseries should be made for Star Wars canon. And with that said, never forget, the Force is always with you.